tonight on Y News. Former Colonel Hansel Marantan, the primary accused in the Atimonan rub-out case, speaks after his release from detention last night and claims politics as the reason behind his ordeal. Department of Justice or DOJ panel asked the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court to issue a gag order on Senator Laila de Lima's drug cases. President Rodrigo Duterte grants parole to 2 inmates in San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City.
President Duterte extends his condolences to the family of slain soldiers in recent operations against the New People's Army. The Mining Industry Coordinating Council, or MICC, lays out final procedures for the review of DENR's mining audit report. And the body of the 10-year-old girl who went missing after falling into Pasig River has been found.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. The prosecution panel of the Department of Justice moves for the consolidation of illegal drug trading charges filed against Senator Laila de Lima for allegedly receiving money from drug lords inside the New Bilibid prison. They also want the court to issue a gag order to the parties and their lawyers. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice filed 3 separate charges against Senator Laila de Lima for allegedly receiving millions from drug lords inside the New Bilibid prison. The cases were assigned to 3 separate branches of the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court. Now, the DOJ prosecution panel wants the cases consolidated before the sala of Judge Juanita Guerrero of Muntinlupa RTC Branch 204. The panel argues that the cases arose from the same set of facts. There are common parties and issues, and that they will be presenting interrelated evidence before the court.
May rason naman kami doon. We cited Rule 119, Section 22. It's allowed under the rules.
During today's hearing, Judge Guerrero directed de Lima's lawyer to file a comment or opposition in 10 days. The court will rule on the motion afterwards.
We oppose kasi nga we feel that they want Judge Guerrero to hear the case. Well, we know naman that it was Judge Gerry who issued the warrant of arrest against Senator De Lima.
Of the 3 judges handling the cases, only Guerrero has issued arrest and detention orders against De Lima. The other 2 have yet to determine if there is probable cause against De Lima or if the RTC has jurisdiction over the cases. The DOJ panel also want the court to prohibit the parties from discussing the merits of the case in public. They manifested in open court that Judge Guerrero issue a gag order, but the judge said she will only act on it if a formal motion is filed.
Yun ang directives ni Judge Guerrero kanina, so we will do it ASAP baka sa Monday.
Sino dapat igag?
Ang alam ko, all parties and all lawyers of the parties.
Because they are as if conditioning the minds of the public that the case that are filed against the accused are weak. So it's possible, if possible, for the parties, all parties from the prosecution panel and also from the accused to refrain from saying things that might affect the minds of the public.
If granted, the gag order will cover De Lima and her lawyers and the prosecution panel. But it is not clear yet if it will be applicable to Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre and the President. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Muntinlupa City.
The Highway Patrol Group has urged all victims of rent sangla scheme to file formal complaints especially those who have not yet recovered their vehicles. Aga Kakbay will tell us why.
Over 2,000 vehicles have been lost to Rent-Sangla modus operandi remains unrecovered to this date, according to the Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group or HPG. Thus, authorities are encouraging the victims to file formal charges against the syndicate that operates behind the scheme. As of today, the HPG reports a total of 465 recovered vehicles parked at Camp Vicente Lim, while at least 200 had been returned to their respective owners. Last night, the Regional Highway Patrol Group Calabarzon arrested in Santa Rosa, Laguna the alleged mastermind of the region's Rent-Sangla scheme identified as Rafaela Anunciacion alias Ella. Anunciacion's victims are hoping that the case against the suspect will proceed as large-scale estafa having more than 500 complainants.
Napakarami pang hindi nakukuha. Ay, kami ho, kahit di bayaran, okay lang. Nakuha lang namin yung unit namin, okay na.
Anunciacion appeared today at the Regional Trial Court in San Pedro, Laguna before Judge Francisco Paño of Branch 93 for the return of warrant of arrest. She is now detained at the detention facility inside BGMP San Pedro in Laguna. Aga Kakbay, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Formal charges have been filed against 4 Quezon City policemen who conducted an Oplan Tokhang operation in Quezon City. Monokson will tell us why.
Payatas Quezon City resident Efren Murillo has filed complaints of frustrated murder, robbery and planting of drugs and firearms against 4 Quezon City policemen at the office of the Ombudsman. The 4 Quezon City Police District cops conducted Oplan Tokhang last August 21, 2016 that almost killed the complainant. The respondents are Senior Inspector Emil Garcia, Police Officer 3 Alan Formilieza, PO1 James Agarao, and PO1 Melchor Navisaga, a former QCPD Station 6 cop. Also facing complaints are their informants, namely Leia Barcelona, Mary Joy Ralo, Lori Barcelona, and Richard Andan alias Manok.
The nature of the writ of amparo is also curative, meaning it lays the foundation for the filing of subsequent charges against the perpetrators.
Based on Murillo's statement, he was just playing billiards with his companions when the cops conducted a raid at their place in Group 9 Area B, Payatas, Quezon City. Seconds later, the QCPD policemen shot them, leaving 4 of his companions dead. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeals issued a permanent protection order for Murillo and the relatives of his companions who were killed during the said drug raid. This means the respondents can't go near Murillo and the victim's kin within 1 kilometer radius. The court also ordered the PNP to update the complainant about the investigation the police are conducting.
Ang protection fund ay ginagawad ng privilege ay yung mismong pagiging kautusan ng korte na kapag nilabag, those who violate the protection will be subjected to contempt proceedings. Makukulong sila at bahagi kasi ito ng coercive power ng korte.
The relatives of those killed during the said raid also plan to file complaints against the 4 QCPD policemen. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Office of the Ombudsman.
2 inmates from the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City will soon start their lives as free men. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
Bureau of Corrections Director General Benjamin de los Santos held a command visit in the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City. During his visit, he announced that 2 inmates of the said prison facility were granted parole by President Rodrigo Duterte. Among those who were granted parole are Bernardo Dayo Jr. of Camiguin Province and Herminihildo Cabrido of Cotabato City. Dayo qualified for absolute pardon for reaching his 10-year minimum sentence, while 72-year-old Cabrido is allowed to go free due to his age. The 2 are part of the first batch of inmates President Duterte granted pardon to. De Los Santos says the pardon of more than 100 parolees from across the country are now being processed. Because of this, De Los Santos says more inmates might be released next month.
Maybe in another month, meron lalabas ulit. Kasi yung proseso ng pag-validate ng kanilang mga records, medyo it takes time, and the Board of Pardons and Parole do not only review those who are eligible for pardon or commutation of sentence, but also those that are eligible for parole.
After inspecting the said facility, De Los Santos encourages other inmates to do good to get a chance to be released.
Magpakabait kayo. Yung 10592, akala ng iba, prospective ang application. Binaliwala ko na yung desisyon yung circular na yun ni Lima, retroactive. Basta magpakabait kayo.
He also advised Bucor personnel to never commit any mistake that would tarnish the image of the agency, further warning them that he will not hesitate to fire them if they do so. De Los Santos also vows to give them a salary increase through the modernization law. March Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte extends his condolences to the bereaved spouse of Sergeant Hansel Morales of the Philippine Army who died in a recent encounter with the NPA in Misamis Oriental last February 28, 2017. He is survived by his wife and 2 minor children. At the same time, at the 4th Infantry Division Chapel lies in state the remains of one more hero of the Republic, Private First Class Oshin Rosal, who died in the same area as Sergeant Morales. He is survived by his parents and 8 siblings. Meanwhile, President Duterte gave an award to Private First Class Vincent Ino Lopez, the Wounded Personnel Medal, for injuries sustained during combat against the NPA last February 28 in Misamis.
The government is now using a new tactic to combat terrorism and also the threat of extremism in the country. Dr. Cosare will tell us why.
In his speech during the relaunch of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission last week, President Rodrigo Duterte once again stressed the need to prevent extremism from destroying the country.
Ngayon kung papasok sila dito, as they are not attempting to try to inject the IS, mahirap yan. That is why also we must avoid extremism or even entertaining or accommodating them, because it will destroy all of us. This will be a country turn apart. Kasi ito sila walang patawad.
As part of the campaign against extremism, the government launched an offensive against the Maute group in Mindanao because it is advocating the belief of ISIS, a known extremist group. But aside from a military offensive, the government, through a security and peace summit in Mindanao, is tapping the help of the sultans, datus, and bais to combat the threat of terrorism and extremism in the southern Philippines.
Mukhang hindi natin pinapansin itong mga leaders nila, yung mga sultan at saka mga datus. Na sila yung maganda yung kanilang influensya sa mga tao nila.
Baka pwede po nating pakinggan. Ito po yung sinuportahan po ng ating mga kalihim sa DILG at DND na suportahan, tingnan kung paano tinitingnan ng ating mga sultan, bay at dato yung mga dahilan, factors and enabling conditions that would allow the entry and growth of violent extremism. Subukan po natin yun.
During the summit, government will solicit ideas that are acceptable to combat terrorism and extremism. Also to be discussed are poverty reduction measures and the peace process. Meanwhile, on the offensive against the Maute group, Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana says members of the group are still hiding in the mountains of Butig, Lanao del Sur, and the military is doing its best to prevent their escape.
Meron tayong 2 batalyon dyan ngayon na kumukupkup sa kanila. Ang utos ko nga kanina kay General Galvez, medyo kontrolin nila yung mga resources na pumapasok at lumalabas para makordon sila at hindi na sila magkaroon ng suporta sa labas.
Lorenzana adds that some Maute group members have already fled to Marawi and authorities are in pursuit of them. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
The Commission on Human Rights, or CHR, denounces the resumption of Oplan Tokhang. In a statement, CHR says the Duterte administration's anti-drug campaign must not be continued because many innocent lives are lost during operations. The agency adds that it is only now that the Philippine National Police, or PNP, is doing an internal cleansing following the involvement of several of its officials in the G.I.C.Ju kidnap slay case. This, aside from the drug surrenderers who have not been placed under rehabilitation and instead are presently in detention.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines and the group Bantay Bayanihan sa Kapayapaan signed today a reaffirmation of commitment. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The group Bantay Bayanihan sa Kapayapaan is a civil society organization that has served as an oversight of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, particularly in its defense and security policies since 2011. The group receives complaints from various sectors about the shortcomings of the AFP against terrorism and violations of the international humanitarian law. AFP and Bantay Bayanihan sa Kapayapaan signed a reaffirmation of commitment for the new campaign of the military called DSSP Kapayapaan.
Please state the name of your cluster or AFP unit.
The agreement was signed by AFP Chief of Staff General Eduardo Año, the National Secretariat of Bantay Bayanihan, and the group's leaders from various parts of the country.
Ang civil society organization na network nitong Bantay Bayanihan kasi, ang focus talaga niya ay human rights, yung compliance ng armed forces sa human rights, sa international humanitarian law at sa rule of law. So kahit na may intensified operation ang military sa Abu Sayyaf or sa ibang mga extremist groups, ang ginagawa ng network ay sinisigurado na hindi kayo lalagpas, no? Hindi kayo lalagpas dito sa mga usapin ng human rights.
AFP Deputy Chief of Staff Vice Admiral Narciso Vingson represented General Año for the reaffirmation of commitment. The AFP is thankful to the said group, saying its first campaign called IPSP Bayanihan succeeded also because of the help of civil society organizations.
It is our hope that this band will continue to hold and withstand every challenge that would beset us in our collaboration.
Vice Admiral Vingson also noted that peace cannot be achieved through armed confrontation alone. The AFP believes that by stopping violence and with the cooperation of all sectors, the country can achieve long-lasting peace, development, and democratization. Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
Government forces clashed with members of the Abu Sayyaf group or ASG in Sulu earlier this morning. According to the report of Army spokesman Benjamin Howe, soldiers from the 32nd Infantry Battalion and 1st Infantry Division had an encounter with 120 members of the ASG. 14 soldiers were wounded in action while many were reportedly injured on the part of the ASG. The government continues to conduct focused military operations against the ASG in Sulu to rescue the remaining captives of the bandit group.
Colonel Hansel Marantan claims that politics is the reason behind his detention, being alleged as the primary accused in the Atimonan massacre in 2013. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Politika yan kasi ang mga kriminal kasi dito sa atin, mga yakin sila. Makikipagbarilan sa mga law enforcers. Pag natalo sila, tatakbo sa Commission on Human Rights, magsusumbong. Tatakbo kay Secretary de Lima, magsusumbong. Yan ang mga pinagsumbuhan, hindi na imbestigahan.
Former Deputy Intelligence Chief of the Calabarzon Region Police Superintendent Hansel Marantan believes politics is the reason for his detention for 4 years despite their efforts to solve the investigation of the Atimonan shooting incident in 2013. Marantan argues that despite the evidences they presented that supposedly proved their innocence, they were still pressed by the former administration on the case. Marantan also scored against the snail-paced proceedings of his case, which had reached 4 years before his petition for bail is granted. The said petition should have been resolved only within 4 to 6 months.
Hindi fair yung prosecution talaga. Oo, kaya nga na-grant yung na-grant yung bail kasi kung mali ang mali yung ill motive, baka sikat ka sa una, first 1 year, first 2 years. Pero later on, makikita yan ng mga juez. May na pala ebidensya nito kaya they granted the bail.
However, he says he understands the sentiments of the victim's kin because of the wrong information they received about the incident.
Hindi ako galit sa kanila, lalo yung mga complainant dahil kung ako man din sa kanila, talagang sasama rin ang loob ko. Kasi biro mo nawalan ka ng asawa, nawalan ka ng mahal sa buhay. So, my heart goes with them. Ang ang napupuna ko lang doon, they were misinformed by the prosecution.
Still, Marantan insists his innocence.
They were accusing me of masterminding that murder. Nandun yung army. Paano ko naman iko-command ang army? Different chain of command yan. They are not under my operational nor administrative control.
Marantan is facing charges of multiple murder as a result of the investigation of the National Bureau of Investigation, ruling that the incident that happened in a checkpoint in Atimonan, Quezon was a rub-out and not a legitimate police operation. The shooting incident killed environmentalist Tirso Lontok Jr. and alleged illegal gambling leader Vic Siman. After he's released last night, Marantan says he bear no grudges against those behind his detention of 4 years. He also refuses to comment on the recent arrest and detention of Senator Leila de Lima, who initiated the filing of charges against him.
I don't have bitterness in my heart or anger in my soul with the prosecution, with the secretary. I must admit na in the first year or first 2 years maybe talagang galit din ako. Pero ano ba ang matututunan ko sa loob ng kulungan kung hindi magpatangat?
Marantan is also among the accused in the 2005 shootout, which UNTV caught an exclusive video of the shooting of 3 young men in Ortigas in Pasig City. The victim's family maintained the slain men were not criminals and claimed it was a rub-out. After footage by UNTV showed policemen shooting the victims to the heads, who were already injured and defenseless. Marantan's group argued that the victims did not stop despite the checkpoint and alleged that young men as members of a carjacking syndicate. The Ortigas case is still under investigation. Now that Marantan is out on bail, he vows to help the investigation of the case. He maintains that the operation are legitimate and they are innocent. He also scores against critics, citing he does not know PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa, nor the PNP Chief has anything to do with his temporary liberty. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Next on Y News. The body of the 10-year-old girl who went missing after falling into Pasig River has been found.
And the Mining Industry Coordinating Council, or MICC, lays out final procedures for the review of DENR's mining audit report.
Y News will be right back. The body of the 10-year-old girl who went missing after falling into Pasig River has been found. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Philippine Coast Guard's search and rescue team has finally found the body of 10-year-old Giselle Vian Pilande, who fell into the Pasig River last Wednesday. PCG says the body of the 10-year-old was found floating in the part of Pasig River at the Valenzuela Ferry Station.
While conducting yung surface search, tumawag yung isang barge na inalarm din natin kahapon. Pinuntahan agad ng ating mga rescue teams at na-confirm na meron ng floating cadaver.
PCG immediately called the mother of the child, Ruth Nazario, to confirm if the remains are of her daughter. PCG says the divers had difficulty searching for the body of Giselle because aside from the 20 to 25 feet depth of the river, the water current was also strong.
Medyo tumabi na po siya sa pampang at sumabit kasi sa mga water lilies, no? Marami kasing water lily diyan, nahirapan nga ang ating mga rescuers kumuha, mag-retrieve.
The PCG calls on the public to immediately report to PCG Action Center hotline any incidents such as drowning. Meanwhile, the remains of Giselle will be laid at her home in Poblacion, Makati. Authorities call on parents to watch their children closely, especially those living near rivers, to avoid similar incidents from happening again. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Respondents in the floating Shabu lab case in Subic, Zambales are given 15 days to file and submit their formal offer of exhibit. John Anna will tell us why.
The bail hearing of the 4 Hong Kong nationals caught with illegal drugs at a suspected floating Shabu laboratory in Subic, Zambales last July 11, 2016 is still ongoing. It was in September when the accused filed a petition to post bail. The prosecution team has just finished earlier the presentation of its last witness who was part of the team that conducted surveillance on the said boat.
Pinakalaman nung testimony niya ay tungkol sa yun nga pagbibigay ng mission order sa kanya, yung surveillance na ginawa nila prior to the alleged operation.
The respondents are given 15 days to file and submit their formal offer of exhibit. Meanwhile, the next hearing will be held on May 5, wherein the defense is expected to present 3 witnesses.
So kami naman yung magpepresenta ng ebidensya namin para lang dito sa bail hearings.
Attorney Infante also says the relatives of the accused are growing impatient due to the slow pace of the resolution of the case. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Mining Industry Coordinating Council is now preparing for the review of DENR's mining audit report. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
The Mining Industry Coordinating Council has crafted the procedure that they are going to follow in reviewing the result of the mines audit of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Experts from different professions will now be recruited by the Mining Industry Coordinating Council or MICC to form 5 technical review teams. They shall look at the technical, legal, social, environmental, and economic aspects of the mining operations under the order of DNR. They will conduct an objective, fact-finding, and science-based review of the existing mining operations limited to the 28 mining operations that were recommended by the DNR for closure and suspension.
We will start with the documents that we have already, okay? They will review the contract and then they will check the past reports where there were violations of the contracts or not. And then they will also go and inspect in the field.
This time, the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines or ULAP will be consulted on the effect of the closure to local governments. ULAP Vice Chairman Antonio Albano said they know how the DNR's decision will affect their provinces like the Dinagat Island.
If you close most of the mines that are in Dinagat Islands, the income that will be taken out will be 20 million pesos, and so their classification as a province is impaired and they might be reverted back to Surigao.
Albano said they were not consulted by the mines audit conducted by the DNR. But Yusek Ipat Luna says,
specific local government officials were consulted. She called several of them. I don't know if she called all that are going to be affected, and if I may take a guess, it might be because of perceived conflict of interest.
This is the first time that the MICC will conduct the review, which will cost the government 50 million pesos. The review should be completed in 3 months, and recommendations will be submitted to President Rodrigo Duterte. Ray Palayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Importers warned that the cost of rice might increase should rice importation remain delayed. Monokson will tell us why.
The cost of rice might soon increase in the following days if the farmers' importation of rice will continue to be delayed. Currently, the Philippines is suffering from rice shortage, prompting the need to import the basic commodities from other countries. Usually, price increases when demand rises and supply decreases.
Kung hindi po niyan makarating, maaring
tataas yung bigas natin sa merkado. So pag tumaas naman ang bigas natin sa merkado, aray naman ang mga magsasaka natin. Ngayon kung tumaas yun, siyempre yung inipay na naman, naghihingi naman ng importation through G2G, government to government. So sila ngayon ang mag-i-import.
Stakeholders say the total amount they import costs 6 billion pesos, the same amount they stand to lose.
So paghahanda lang ho ng mga papeles, mga requirements para makakwalify ay malaki na po ang gastos. Lahat ng mga lisensya, malaki hong kalugian kung sakaling hindi ho maparating yung mga bigas.
A memorandum was issued by the National Food Authority imposing a deadline to all imported rice until February 28. Because of this, all imported rice that will not arrive beyond the said date will no longer be accepted. In case it arrives, the Bureau of Customs will hold the rice based on the memorandum of the NFA. Among the reasons why importers failed to meet the deadline are the successive holidays in the countries where it was imported from, like Thailand, Vietnam, India, and Pakistan. 2 of the 5 shipping lines that import rice also backed out, and the additional requirements asked by the NFA from importers. Currently, the NFA is requesting to import 1 million metric tons of rice. Cooperatives will send a manifest paper to President Duterte to report the uncooperative acts of the present administrator. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine government is optimistic that more investments and thousands of job opportunities will enter the country as the Philippines and Russia strengthen their ties. John Ano will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte is set to visit Russia on May 25, 2017. On the said foreign visit, different agreements are expected to be signed that will enhance the relationship of Philippines and Russia. Among these are the developments in the educational system as well as strengthening the defense security of their country. Other deals also expected to be tackled during the bilateral talks are the increase in investments, the creation of thousands of job opportunities, and exporting the agricultural products of the country. According to Russian ambassador to the Philippines, Igor Anatolevich Kovaev, house helper is considered as the most in demand for Filipinos in Russia. Aside from being hardworking, Russians are also admiring Filipinos because of their ability to speak and understand English language.
That's a great potential for our cooperation in this field. So it's time for interested people. Philippine housemaids are becoming more and more popular in Russia because they not only hardworking and law-abiding, but they also are able to teach children English language.
Apart from house helpers, Russia is also in need of construction workers, skilled engineers, as well as health professionals. The Russian ambassador said that it is too early to identify the things that the Russian government will offer to the Philippines, but he assures that their government is serious in helping our country to strengthen the relationship of the two countries.
Our intentions are serious and responsible. We are interested in a comprehensive cooperation with your country.
Joan Ano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC may decide next week if the planned implementation of more than 1 peso per kilowatt-hour power rate hike will be permitted. The ERC says they will discuss in a meeting Meralco's petition to impose a staggered power rate increase due to the effects of the Malampaya gas facility maintenance. Meralco plans on imposing a 30 centavos per kilowatt-hour increase to be added on the consumer's March billing, another 30 centavos in April, and the remaining amount to reflect in May. The ERC clarifies they may either approve of Meralco's petition for a staggered billing or let Meralco do a one-time collection of the entire amount. Meralco may also extend the recovery period for consumers not to feel burdened by the power rate hike. Meanwhile, the Department of Energy is studying if power rate increase can be prevented whenever Malampaya maintenance shutdown occurs. The Energy Department calls on power plant operators to guarantee that there is sufficient power supply this summer season. Coming up, a suspected World War II bomb is discovered in a London building site.
And the PNP responders and Malacanang Camaos Best of 3 final series begins on March 5.
More from Y News after this break. Taiwan's Navy will step up regular patrols around the South China Sea. Amiel Pascual will tell us why.
Taiwan deploys regular supplies to Ito Aba, its sole holding in the disputed South China Sea, energy-rich waters that is also claimed by China, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Brunei. Taiwan's Defense Minister Fang Shikwan told a parliamentary session that Taiwan's military would practice new reforms in their training, given the transformation of China's strategy and investment in new weapons equipment. Fang's remark in Parliament comes ahead of China's new defense budget for 2017, to be unveiled on the weekend at the annual meeting of the Chinese Parliament. The figures are closely watched around the region and in Washington for clues to China's intentions.
因为不光是辽宁号，因为它的轰六，像最近它就在这个第一岛链这个附近在操练，所以我在想，这个兵力的部署是完全为了我们整体的安全、国家的安全所做的。
He also justifies the relocation of a surface-to-air anti-missile system, the Patriot Advanced Capability or PAC-3, on Taiwan's eastern coast, Hualien.
我们现在研发的武器较前进步，而且譬如说，我们有一些这个飞弹的发展，可以让我们有更好的防卫力量。在这个时候呢，时间最重要。
Self-ruled Taiwan's awareness over China's military threat has deepened as Beijing has regularly flown Chinese military jets and sailed its first aircraft carrier around Taiwan in what it called routine drills. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Hsinchu, Taiwan.
A suspected World War II bomb was found in a building site in North London on Thursday. According to local police and firemen attending the scene, they had been called to the building site after the object had been discovered. A local school, nursery, and nearby homes were evacuated as a safety precaution in the Bronsbury Park area.
Fans said next year's World Cup and this year's Confederations Cup in Russia will need special identity cards before they can watch matches. Gerry will tell us why.
Football hooliganism, which had appeared to be waning at major tournaments, has again become a serious concern after Euro 2016 in France, with Russian fans prominent. Colin Smith, director of competitions for global soccer body FIFA, says Russian authorities would be responsible for issuing the identity cards.
Now, what we can be sure of is that this will be a festival of football, and there's no place in such festivals of football for those that are not here to support the sport and support the game.
The cards will include the holder's photograph and contact details and can be used instead of visas to enter the country. The Confederations Cup will be staged in 4 of the 11 World Cup host cities, Moscow, Kazan, and Sochi, along with St. Petersburg, the venue for the opening match on June 17 between Russia and New Zealand. Russia were handed a suspended disqualification by European soccer body UEFA and fined €150,000 or $157,605 after their fans were involved in violent clashes with England supporters before a group game in Marseille. Gerry, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
Bayern Munich continues to work hard for a steady lead at the German Bundesliga. Meanwhile, the European Athletics Association wants Russia back to the game. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
European Athletics Association President Svein Arne Hansen says that national associations want Russia to return to competition drug-free. Hansen says he thought there was a change in Russia's mentality and progress is taking place. The IAAF has banned Russian athletes from international competition except under special supervision since before the Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games last year.
We are working
very closely on this situation. We had a meeting in Monaco a month ago, I think it was, where the task force gave their report, and they saw progress in Russia. And I see progress in Russia.
Meanwhile, in cricket, Australia's all-rounder Mitchell Marsh says his side expects a great fight with world number 1 India in the second test of the 4-match series in southern Bengaluru City tomorrow, March 4.
Look, we know the Indian team is a very proud cricketing nation, and this team will certainly come hard at us. So we're expecting a great fight, and although we're 1-0 up in the series, it's still going to be game on.
Australia has a decent record at Bengaluru's Chinnaswamy with 2 victories and losing just 1 out of the 5 tests they played at the venue. And in soccer, Bayern Munich trains intensely with eagerness to hold on to a steady lead at the top of the German Bundesliga and extend their unbeaten run to 18 matches. Bayern reaches the semifinals of the German Cup, where they will play Borussia Dortmund or Sportfreunde Lotte after beating Schalke 3-0 on Wednesday. Carlo Ancelotti's team next plays on Saturday against FC Cologne, who are 7th in the table. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Expect a roaring crowd of UNTV Cup fans on Sunday. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
It's game on in the best of 3 final series at the UNTV Cup Season 5. After proving to be the strongest teams in the league this season, the PNP Responders and the Malacanang Kamao will collide on the UNTV Cup hardcourt to finally determine who will take home the UNTV Cup Season 5 trophy. The Responders, who are not new to the final stage of the league after going into a head-on collision with the Judiciary Magis in Season 1 and the AFP Cavaliers both in Seasons 2 and 4, will attempt to clinch the title for the 4th time. On the other hand, the Malacanang Kamao, formerly Malacanang Patriots, who failed to beat the Judiciary Magis in the Season 3 Championship Series, has another bid to bring home the much-coveted label, the champions. For this, the Kamao team is gearing up ahead of the battle.
Talaga ipapakita namin kung ano yung value ng pag ang team naglalaro as one, pag may teamwork, tsaka maganda ang samahan. Kailangan handa kami sa lahat ng aspects ng game. Kailangan kondisyon kami, kailangan mentally tough kami, tapos yung mindset namin tama entering yung that game on Sunday.
Malaking mga adjustment namin. So pinag-aralan din namin yung mga game nila. So, pagdating naman sa court, anybody's ball game yan. So may mga charity tayong mga pinaghahandaan para makatulong tayo.
And on Coach Eric Sampson's side, the Hoopers of the Philippine National Police are working hard to further improve in various departments.
Sa simula. So doon siguro kami magpo-focus. At the same time, yung depensa namin medyo on line lapses, may mga loopholes eh. Pangalawa, yung field goal percentage namin. Yun, medyo aral pa kami dyan. Adjust pa kami.
Over 8 million pesos cash prizes awaits the League of Public Servants this season, which will be donated to the chosen beneficiaries of each team. Don't miss the Game 1 of the Best of 3 final series between the PNP Responders and the Malacanang Kamao at 5 p.m. on March 5, Sunday, to be aired live on UNTV, emanating from the Pasig City Sports Center with live streaming via UNTVweb.com. Bernard Danis for the UNTV Cup Season 5.
Michael Jackson's famed Neverland Ranch is back on the market at a much reduced price. Nino Ormilio will tell us why.
Michael Jackson's famed Neverland Ranch in California is on sale at a much lower price of $67 million, and with no mention of the late pop star in the real estate listing. The sprawling 1,100-hectare estate, which once featured a zoo and theme park rides, and where Jackson was accused of molesting a boy, is being touted for suitability for winemaking, keeping horses, and a lifestyle of relaxation and entertainment entertainment on a grand scale. In May 2015, at $100 million, but failed to sell. Jackson, who died from an overdose of the anesthetic propofol in 2009 at age 50, bought the property in Los Olivos, north of Los Angeles, in 1987 for $19.5 million. After financial troubles in 2008, he handed over the title to the ranch to investment firm Colony Capital LLC, which held its $23 million loan on the property. Neverland, a name taken from the Peter Pan tale of a boy who refused to grow up, became Jackson's favorite retreat. It also was where he entertained young boys, one of whom brought molestation charges against the Thriller singer that resulted in a 2005 trial and Jackson's acquittal. The ranch's famous railway has now been removed, but the listing by a real estate company, Coldwell Banker, shows that the floral clock with the word Neverland remains. Other than that, the listing makes no mention of Jackson. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Looking at the house of Michael Jackson brings back a lot of memories, but I'd like to ask, what is your favorite Michael Jackson song? Not in your era?
I actually forgot all Michael Jackson's songs.
Forgot all his songs. Anyway, just one tip. One of the monkeys who was in the house of Michael Jackson, the song was dedicated to him. I think it's Ben. One of the songs. Ben.
Yeah, I do remember. And Thriller. Yeah, the 80s hit song.
You're really young. Happy weekend, everyone.
Yes,
Those are the reasons behind the news. March 3, 2017. I'm Angelo, Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene, Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.